My name is Norman Wapachee. I'm from the Ojibwe Cree Nation. Just recently I started a work there as a director of natural resources. Before that, I was working as with Black Rock Metals, a mining company, and community relations coordinator, building relationships between communities, Jamaisians, Shibumu, Chape, and the Cree communities of Ojibwe and Mistissini. What does it mean to be a Cree? Honestly, I don't know. The Cree, the term Cree, it didn't originate from the Eenou. The word Cree was imposed on us. To us, from what I hear, it's a term that was used, I guess, for Christian, when the missionaries came in. So it had something to do with Christianity. But I can tell you about the word Eenou, because that's who I am. For Eenou, Eenou means to me a living being, something that's alive. Where I live, it's not the Cree territory, it's the Eeyou Istchee, which means a living land. Both myself and the land where I was born, it's like a connection between me and the land. Both of us, the land and me, are one. We're inextricably tied together. You can't separate us. Together we are one. My identity derives from there. My way of life derives from there. My language is very strongly connected to the land. I find that not many people speak about this. To a large degree, I believe that this view of who Eenou is has been lost because of modernization, because of impacts of resource development. We have developed and been modernized and at a large scale. And our way of life, I'll use the term Eenou-ness, has been really falling behind. Everything that we do right now, when we go into resource development, like mining, forestry, hydroelectric projects, or wind energy, has been going forward at a fast speed. And our way of thinking has been falling behind. We tend to live as individuals, not as a group. Back then those rituals were used to sustain life, to ensure that a clan would have plenty of food for the winter. But right now, the lifestyle is very different. Right now, if you ask a youth to define Cree, it wouldn't reflect it wouldn't be the same as if an elder defined his identity. It's very, very, very different. For the elders, they can really define who they are. They can talk about their physical, they talk about the land, they can talk about their spiritual well-being, but everything is incorporated. Like they can talk about they talk about it holistically. Whereas the youth, it's something very very different. Like it wouldn't be the same. It would be as a separate component, not as a holistic being with the land. For sure, they're adopting a lot of Western ideologies, philosophies, and they're not really. I think the challenging part for the youth is really listening to an elder and taking what's behind the message of the elders when they speak about the land or when they speak about their way of life. They're they separate these things because that's how the school system teaches us. It's not really this like when you start grade school. The teachers teach you the message that you get from the education system. It's not inclusive of the land, the animals, the birds, the fish, as what the Cree used to include when they speak about the land and its resources. It's not inclusive. So the youth, for them, it's very hard to understand the elder. That's the challenging part.
Yeah.
For me, I never saw myself as a master in my homeland, as a slave. I always believed that we have this master and child, mother and child relationship with the land. It's the land that takes care of us. Maybe we could be masters of our destiny. It's us that we can determine our destiny. Say, for example, in our trampoline, probably about 40% of it is water, and 60% of it is on land. But you look at all the multi-resource development activities that take place in the family land, like mining, forestry. Now they're proposing a wind energy project. Past mining activities where the company just left the area without proper restoration, and there's a lot of acid mine drainage in there, and it's impacting the waters, the fish that we depend on. It's not a very big land, and when you look at the family, the Wapachee clan, there's about 120 of us, and it's of all these developments that are happening, like for us, we're concerned. What I would like to pass on to my child, my son, is how to hunt, fish, trap. Like the same things that my father taught me. I'd like to transfer those things to my son. But I have, what scares me is, if he has a son, what's going to be left of the land? The Cree don't usually oppose to any major development. They're open to it, as long as if it's sustainable, as long as if these projects take into account Cree concerns and lessen the impacts of environmental impacts. They're open for that. But it comes to a point where there's a lot of job opportunities out there. And I think the Cree would need to sit down and say, okay, do we need all these things, or in order to protect a high level of our lands, to ensure our Cree way of life survives? I think that's pretty challenging. When is it going to be enough to say, okay, that's enough development right here? We want to be able to survive as Eenou. lot of our leaders will sign agreements, sign after agreements. And I work with, I hear them, I work with a lot of leaders, and I don't know, they tend to have, okay, they found another mine over here, they found another mine, they're looking for a mine over here, and there's potential mine, like for a gold mine or iron ore mine, and this is what they talk about, as if they're like really looking forward to these things. You know, as if you hardly hear, hey, this part of the Cree territory is not disturbed by development. And it's such a blessing to be able to still use that land for hunting, fishing, and trapping, and without any disturbance from developers. You know, like leave the land the way it was when the Creator created the land, and the way our ancestors left it for us. You don't hear talks like that. It's all about mining. It's all about forestry. It's all about jobs. It's all about revenues coming in. When I listened to my father, my mother talk about the land the way it was before, it was like actually living in a beautiful garden, like in heaven, exactly the way the Creator created the earth. Waters were clean, you know. She would say, like, when Dad and I would paddle, I would get my cup from my canoe, get my water, and drink it from there. Everything was clean. The fish was clean, and the forests were like virgin forests. Now it's really, really changed. It really damaged everything. And if you ask a youth that was born in the 90s, 2000, these impacts, they don't talk about these impacts. It's, I guess it's like for them it's like, you know, like it's normal. It's normal for them. For the elders, speaking on behalf of the elders, I think they are, to a large degree, still the defenders of the lands. For them, the land, like I said, they're inextricably tied to it. And when they speak, you can sense that they speak not only but the Eenou, but also on behalf of the trees, on behalf of the moose, the birds, the fish, the waters. I think for me, the Eenou, the leadership at the leadership level, need to work closely with the elders to hear them out when it comes to resource development activities or governance of the territory, and they need to work with it. Right now, there seems to be they work with communities, and a lot of people that comment on resource development. It's mostly the people like that are in their 40s, and people that don't live off the land, that don't live on the land. They're more occupied with their jobs in the community. And the youth, there's a lot of them that never went out on the land. Governance is a very important system that the Cree reclaim, because before the Europeans came in, we had a way of governing ourselves, and when the Europeans came and they established their own legislation and imposed legislation to the Cree, took away a lot of our responsibilities, the things that we used to do. Created the Department of Indian Affairs, created the Indian Act, and all of a sudden the Aboriginal peoples found themselves that, okay, our laws are with the federal government. It's under the Indian Act. But now taking away a good portion of a lot of the governance, like elements in governance, away from the provincial, federal. I don't see it as the government giving us more powers to the to govern ourselves, but I see it as a way of taking back what was taken away from us. But I think to a large degree, people are not really educated. They don't know how to ask questions on the presentation of the governance. That's the Cree Nation and the certain group of people at the Cree Nation head office, working with the lawyers from down south that come in and telling us, okay, this is the appropriate governance agreement that we have, and this is what we can do, blah blah blah, and they're more like promoting it, as opposed to looking at working with the communities closer, and to come up with a good governance system, a system that really belongs to the people, that comes from the people, that's there for the people. One of the main threats, I guess, I would see would be the losing the Cree way of life, losing how we view the land and the resources, and continuing the path to modernity at the speed without putting a pause on certain things or slowing down certain things, and to make sure that culture is well traveling at the same speed, working with a slowing down development, but can't let culture catch up with it.